I thought my wife would be with me for the rest of my life, but I didn't expect that on Christmas Day, I discovered a disgusting scene about him. My name is Chin Bei, I am 34 years old and I work as a vice president in a private company. My wife is 2 years younger than me, very pretty, and works as a department manager in a bank. The saying that a woman has 31 flowers is absolutely true. Although my wife is 32 years old, she is still as charming as a little girl. When she goes out, outsiders will mistake my wife for my daughter, which makes me dumbfounded. With a beautiful and capable wife, your career will naturally flourish and flourish. Wang Fu's words are fully reflected in his wife. When I think about it, in order to marry her, I really spent a lot of effort to stand out from her many suitors. We have been married for nearly 5 years. We have established a firm foothold in this city. We have bought a house and a car. In addition, we have relatively high positions, our annual income is very considerable, and we enjoy life very much. But when it comes to the relationship between the two, I feel more guilty for her. As for me, I am a qualified husband at work, but not a competent husband in life. Due to my work, I often have to help my boss with various social activities, and I have to go to various entertainment venues and drinking establishments from time to time. This also results in me not spending a lot of time with my wife. I often go out early and come back late, even on holidays. I have to be busy all the time, and I have to keep an eye on the work of my subordinates with many tasks at hand. I also pay a lot less attention to my wife, and even neglect her invisibly. I know in my heart that this situation will often lead to the worst result, the breakdown of the marriage. My wife has never blamed me on the surface, but I know she definitely doesn't think so in her heart. She definitely hopes that I can spend more time with her and take her feelings into consideration. I am also working hard to change this. On Christmas Eve, I completed all the tasks on hand early and got off work early. As early as a week ago, I made a reservation at a Western restaurant with a good reputation, and plan to take my wife to try it on Christmas Day. It has indeed been a bit hard over the years, and during Christmas I want to make it up to her. When I arrived at the restaurant, I told the waiters my requirements and asked them to prepare the atmosphere for me. Money was not an issue. The waiters were also very smart, and the scene was well decorated. The candlelight dinner, with roses on both sides and ambient lights, looked very romantic. The Christmas tree has also been hung with gifts for my wife. I believe she will be very happy when she sees it. After setting everything up, I drove to where my wife worked and prepared to give her a surprise when she came out. Half an hour later, what was waiting was a black Mercedes-Benz commercial vehicle. The Mercedes-Benz stopped in front of the bank. When I saw the people getting out of the car, my eyes widened suddenly and my face was full of shock. The person who got out of the car turned out to be my wife, and behind her came a middle-aged man about 40 years old. The man is wearing a suit, has not gained weight, and looks very elegant. Wait, my brain suddenly exploded. I know this man. His name is Zhou Shang. He is the president of the bank and his wife is the leader. After the two got off the car, they did not go in. Instead, they talked at the door. Judging from the angry expression on his wife's face, it must be something serious. After hearing what Zhou Shang said, his wife stretched out her hand and pinched his arm. Zhou Shang was not angry, but smiled and hugged his wife's arm. Seeing this scene, I felt a chill in my heart, and an uneasy feeling surged into my heart. Their behavior was too intimate, it didn't look like employees getting along with their leaders at all. After Zhou Shang said a few words, he got into the car again, and his wife turned around and entered the bank. I didn't step forward to question him, for fear of disturbing the situation. After driving away, I took out my mobile phone and called my wife, telling her that I had made a reservation at a Western restaurant and wanted to spend a warm Christmas with her. On Christmas night, I saw a long-lost happiness on my wife's face, which made me feel guilty. If I could have done this earlier, maybe I could have changed everything later. Unfortunately, there is no regret medicine in the world. I didn't tell her what I saw at the door of her bank in the morning. If I did, I was afraid that there would be a crack in the relationship between the two. But I still need to pay attention. I don't want to have a cuckold on my head for no reason. That morning, I began to pay close attention to my wife's whereabouts. After 3 days, I found out that she was fine, so I called the bank and asked her, and she said she was working. As for whether it is work, I have no way of knowing, I can only doubt it. I spent a week like this. I didn't notice anything strange during the week, and my wife didn't have any contact with Zhou Shang again. Even so, it could not eliminate my suspicion of my wife. That weekend night, I accidentally found a text message on my wife's mobile phone. When I saw the content of the text message, I couldn't sit still. I miss you more and more lately, my dear, I really want to keep you by my side. After seeing this content, I was trembling all over. I sat down on the sofa, my face turned pale, and I looked at the bathroom room. I clenched my fists. She was really sorry for me. After a short period of time, my wife began to leave early and come home late, and sometimes she stayed up all night. Every time I asked her, she would come up with many excuses to frustrate me, and her attitude would become more and more perfunctory. There is a saying that is very good, love or not can be seen in the details. It seems from various details that my wife's love for me has completely disappeared long ago. My wife came out of the shower and went straight into the room. Not long after, she put on a whole new set of clothes. Husband, I'm going out in a while. I asked, it's so late, where are you going? My wife said, my best friend organized a party and asked me to go there. I didn't want her to go, but then I thought about it. After thinking about it, I thought it was an opportunity, so I asked her to pay attention to safety and come back early. After my wife went out, I immediately put on my clothes and followed her. I didn't drive my own car. I hailed a taxi and followed him. I stopped in front of a bar, and my wife got out of the car and walked in. I didn't go in, but found a place to squat. It wasn't until 2:30 in the morning that I saw a group of people coming out. In the crowd, I saw my wife and Zhou Shang. My wife got into Zhou Shang's car. When I saw this, I quickly hailed a taxi. Half an hour later, Zhou Shang's car parked downstairs of my house and someone got out of the car. Zhou Shang reluctantly hugged his wife back and drove away. Seeing this scene, my blood surged all over my body, and anger rushed into my brain. I really wanted to rush up and stop Zhou Shang's car and question him face to face, but I gave up. I want them to repay 100-fold for the harm they did to me. In order to get the evidence, I spent 5,000 to buy a camera to take photos of the two people's evidence, and then I waited for the opportunity. Since they won't let me live a good life, I won't let them live happily either. In order to devote myself to the investigation, I used up all my annual leave this year. In the past few days, I have been following my wife and Zhou Shang. The two finally gave me a chance this afternoon. At 4 o'clock, his wife was picked up from the bank by Zhou Shang. In order to avoid colleagues, my wife still went through the back door. I drove along with them for half an hour in a car I borrowed from my colleagues. They stopped at a hotel. Zhou Shang was a habitual offender at first glance. He was very alert as soon as he got out of the car and kept looking behind him. Even when entering a hotel, he lets his wife in first, and then waits for her to book a room before he goes in. I took a deep breath, put my camera in my bag, put my hat on and walked into the hotel. I knew the opportunity had come. As soon as I entered the hotel, the receptionist used his mobile phone and pretended to make a call. Hey, President Zhou, I'm here. Where is the person? What? The elevator signal is not good? Then I'll ask the front desk. When I came to the front desk, I asked, hello, what room is the gentleman in? The lady at the front desk said, you said Mr. Zhou, he is in room 305. It seems that he is still a regular customer. I said, thank you. I entered the elevator. In the elevator, I felt very complicated, not only angry, but also humiliated. To be honest, I don't understand why my wife would betray me. I really don't understand. Our conditions are obviously very good, so why would he do such a thing? No matter what, he has to pay for his mistakes. When I came to room 305, I looked around first to see if anyone else was there, then I pressed myself against the door and listened. The soundproofing of the door was so good that I couldn't hear anything. After looking around to make sure no one was around, I took out my bank card, held the door handle with one hand, and then inserted the bank card into the crack of the door. With a slight slide, the door opened with a click. The moment I opened it, I could feel my heart beating. Slowly opening the door, the living room comes into view. I quietly walked into the door and closed the door. As soon as I entered, I heard a familiar voice coming from the bedroom in front of me. The moment I heard the voice, the blood vessels all over my body seemed to burst, and a wave of anger rushed through my body and mind, making it so suppressed that it was difficult to breathe. I wanted to kick open the door, rush in, and chop them into pieces, but I held back. I will use the most painful and cruel methods to deal with them, and I will make their lives worse than death. During this period, every time I wanted to touch my wife, he would stop me for various reasons. Now, I find it really funny, but at the time I thought he was really unwell. I opened the bedroom door and saw an extremely disgusting scene inside. My wife's happy look made me tremble all over. My nails dug deeply into my flesh, and the severe pain kept me sane. Taking a deep breath, I took out my camera, adjusted the angle, and captured the entire scene. As the scene inside became more and more stomach-churning and I could no longer bear it, I dropped the camera and left the hotel. Although my heart aches, the evidence has been obtained. When I came out of the hotel, I was completely groggy and drove aimlessly on the street. At 7 o'clock in the evening, it was not until my wife called that I returned to normal. My wife asked me why I hadn't come back yet. I said that the company had to work overtime and I wouldn't be able to come back until later. In the car, I took out my laptop and uploaded the video from the camera into the computer. After watching the video, my body was shaking uncontrollably and tears flowed out uncontrollably. I really don't understand why he would hurt me when I confide in him. Could it be that for him, our 5 years of marriage were all fake? I made 3 copies of the video, one on my phone, one on my computer, and the other copy into a USB flash drive, which I kept in the safe at home. It was almost 8 o'clock when I got home, and my wife was already asleep. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at him quietly, feeling a little obsessed for a while. His fair face was rosy and he looked very charming. I sneered in my heart, after being nourished, it was indeed different. I stretched out my hand and wanted to strangle my wife to death while she was sleeping. As long as my wife died, my humiliation would disappear. But will it really happen? Even if my wife dies, the humiliation will remain in my heart forever. And the most important thing is that Zhou Sheng is still alive. If they want to die, they both have to die together. As soon as I lay down, my wife turned over and hugged my arm, with a smile on her face. He said that holding my arm felt safe and allowed him to sleep soundly. In the past, I would be very happy to hear him do this and feel very happy. But now, my heart is as indescribable as if I've knocked over a 5-flavor bottle. The happiness of the past kept popping up in his mind, and the hatred for his wife in his heart became even stronger. That night, I made up my mind and decided to bring my revenge forward. They tortured me, and I tortured them. The next day, I started preparing the first step of my revenge plan. My wife goes to work at the bank at 7 in the morning. As the president, Zhou Sheng usually arrives a little late. I placed the prepared box on a park chair, then called an errand to get Zhou Sheng's phone number. I got them all. When he was running errands to get something, Zhou Sheng also happened to arrive at the bank. According to the distance, the errand boy can deliver the things to Zhou Sheng in less than 10 minutes. I sat in the car and stared at the bank door. I guessed that about 7 minutes later, the errand boy came to the bank door and took out his mobile phone to make a call. After a while, Zhou Sheng came out. Zhou Sheng's expression was serious when he took the things from the errand boy. He frowned at the gift box and was about to open it when I immediately dialed his number. Zhou Sheng answered the phone and asked, "Who are you?" I deliberately lowered my voice, "President Zhou, hello." Hearing my voice, Zhou Sheng frowned deeper, "Who are you?" I said, "You don't need to know who I am, but you should be very interested in what I have here." After hearing this, Zhou Sheng glanced at the box in his hand and immediately reacted, "Did you give the box to me?" Without saying a word, he hid his body in the car. Zhou Sheng is indeed an old fox. When he realized that the box was from me, he immediately looked around. If I hadn't escaped in time, I would have been afraid of being discovered by him. I picked up the phone and said, "President Zhou, you'd better take the things here home and appreciate them alone. If there are people around, then your appearance in the hotel will have to wait." After saying that, Zhou Sheng became emotional. I became excited, "Who are you? What do you want to do?" I said, "I don't want to do anything, I just want to give you a surprise." Before he could say anything else, I hung up the phone. Zhou Sheng stood at the door of the bank, his expression a little frightened. Seeing him like that made me very happy. When I got home in the evening, I saw my wife sitting on the sofa with a restless look on her face. Obviously, Zhou Sheng told her what happened today, so he is starting to be afraid now. I ignored my wife and entered the bathroom humming happily while holding my clothes. When I went to bed at night, my wife was extremely worried and kept tossing and turning next to me. I ignored him because I knew very well that he would have many more days of sleeplessness and everything had just begun. The next morning, I called Zhou Sheng again. Before I could speak, his voice came from inside, "Brother, if we have something to talk about, okay? If you want money, I can give it to you, but you must not make the video public. I have a family. You can't destroy me." This made me very angry. He still had the nerve to mention this to me. My family has been destroyed by him, why should I let his family go? If he does something wrong, he has to bear it himself. I asked, "Are you retiring soon?" Zhou Sheng's slightly trembling voice came from the phone, Not yet." I smiled and said, "Are you old and confused? You are almost 50 this year. I'm already at retirement age." He said, "How can I? I'm in great shape, and I can still work for at least another 10 years. Oh, this old boy didn't understand what I meant. I said coldly, stop pretending to be confused in front of me, you know the consequences very well. He immediately changed his mind. Yes, I am really confused. I should retire next month. Normally, Joe, it will take a few more years for him to retire, but I have the handle on him, so he can only listen to me and retire early. If you are sensible, you still need to do a favor before retiring. Joe Shang said quickly, okay, brother, as long as you don't make the video public, I will listen to you and do whatever you ask me to do. Now Joe Shang is completely under my control. I said tomorrow you can find any excuse to fire the woman in my video, and then I will give you an address and you let him go to work there.